Daniel stopped making notes. He sat in the center of the room, the glow from his laptop casting long shadows across the walls. The recordings had become predictable in their impossibility. Shadows that shifted independently, faint shuffling sounds that followed his steps, reflections that appeared where they could not exist. And yet in this quiet, he could almost forget them, almost believe the room was still. The rain outside became the only constant, filling the space with steady rhythmic sound. It masked the hum of the apartment, the ticking of the clock, the faint movements that might have gone unnoticed. Daniel closed his eyes for a moment, letting the rhythm settle his mind. But in the recordings, the anomalies persisted. The figure in the corner remained, just behind the desk, watching. He played the latest upload. The video was 3 minutes and 22 seconds long. The shadow shifted, the lamp flickered, and the corner silhouette leaned slightly, almost imperceptibly, as though it had detected his gaze on the screen. The shuffling sound returned, quiet, soft, responding to the pauses he made while observing. Each anomaly seemed calibrated to his attention, as if the footage itself had learned him. Daniel leaned closer to the screen, staring at the window's reflection. For a moment, he thought he saw movement outside the frame, but when he looked around the room, nothing was there. Only the rain continued, filling the apartment with its steady, unbroken rhythm. He stopped speaking. The recordings, disconnected from power and the internet, continued to document everything, capturing the room, the corner, the figure, the reflections, and now, him. And yet, he could do nothing. He could observe, he could measure, he could document. But he could not change what the recordings had captured. The room felt familiar. It felt safe. But Daniel knew that familiarity was deceptive. The anomalies had been subtle, patient, persistent. They would remain. And even if he left the apartment, even if he unplugged every device and destroyed every recording, the memory of the presence and its impossible perspective would linger in the footage, and in him. On the 7th review, Daniel noticed something he hadn't seen before. The recordings, removed from power, disconnected from Wi-Fi and supposedly inert, had captured a detail that defied all explanation. The figure in the corner appeared to adjust its height and posture to match his own. When he sat, the figure's shadow seemed to lean lower. When he stood, it straightened. He paused, rewound, and watched the footage frame by frame. The reflection in the window, which had always been faint and almost unrecognizable, now showed a second presence, subtle, unmoving, but perfectly aligned with his movements. It was as if the recordings had somehow predicted his gestures, his turns, even the way he held the camera while reviewing the clips. Daniel checked the room in reality, every angle, every possible hiding spot. Nothing. No wires, no mirrors, no secondary lens. And yet, the recordings remained, capturing him, tracking him, observing him in ways that were physically impossible. He realized with a growing chill that the rain outside seemed to amplify rather than soothe, that the recordings were no longer passive records of a room. They were active documents of his presence, his attention, and his movement, layered with anomalies that could not exist without observation. The figure in the corner, the reflections, the subtle movements, they were not random. They were deliberate, patient, waiting. Daniel's own reflection in the laptop screen flickered with the room's light. For the first time, he felt that he was part of the recordings, inseparable from them, recorded in ways he could not alter or escape. The recordings had captured him fully from every angle and were now, in a sense, alive, responding to him, calibrating themselves to his attention, existing independently of the camera, the power, or the Wi-Fi. He leaned back, staring at the screen, the soft patter of rain filling the apartment. There was a realization he could not shake. The presence had always been there, watching, waiting, and it had adapted to him inside the recordings, inside the room, inside the very angles of his perception. Daniel closed the latest recording and sat in silence. The rain filled the room, steady and unbroken, tapping against the window like a metronome, marking every impossible detail the footage had captured. He looked around the apartment. Everything was as it had always been. The bed, the desk, the lamp, the corner where the shadow had stood. Nothing moved. Nothing breathed. Nothing appeared, except in the recordings themselves. He reached for the camera, now powerless on the desk, lifted it carefully and turned it over. The lens reflected the room perfectly. There was no figure, no shadow, nothing. And yet, he knew. Whatever had been watching, whatever had been recorded from impossible angles was still there, waiting. The final footage, disconnected from all power and networks, would never stop existing. It would remain in the cloud, in the device, in the angles and shadows and reflections. And Daniel knew, in a quiet, inescapable way, that the room, the recordings, the figure, and himself were all indelibly connected. The rain continued. He did not move, and the camera, powerless, face down on the desk, had recorded something it should never have been able to see. Something that could no longer be explained, undone, or escaped. Kindly like, follow, and subscribe for more videos like this.